Thank you all for coming out. We're delighted to be here in Kenton and at the Offbeat. And I'm Tim Wilson. I'm the board president of MusicOregon, and I've seen many of you at events and met some of you tonight. We're delighted that you're here, even though it's a small group. We're streaming thanks to Stephen's help. And so we can preserve this so more people can sort of find out and sort of gather the information they need from this amazing panel. I just wanted to start to say that I think that kind of what the Friends of Noise and Andre and all of his team are doing here at the Offbeat is a really important thing for Portland, to have an all ages venue. It's an amazing, I think it's an amazing gift, and it's an amazing investment in Portland, both as a community and as a music city. It's, for the community to have this place where folks can come and gather with, where there's non-alcohol served, people of all ages can come. It's welcomed everyone, and also as a pipeline and as a center for education and performance where young artists can come up and find their way. So you have these two kind of parts of this, which make this a really amazing institution and a really important addition to Portland's music scene and its culture scene. And we're really proud of what you've done, Andre, and I want to turn it over to Andre Middleton, and who will be our moderator tonight. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Tim. First off, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I used to work at the Regional Arts or Culture Council, and I remember the conversation I had with Mayor McLaughlin when the whole concept of a Music Portland was kind of started to be broached. How do we gather resources, work together to really make sure that the artists that are at the heart of all ages or at the heart of a Portland music ecosystem are represented and supported. And at the same time, I was actually starting Friends of Noise, but our legal name is All Ages Music Portland. So there's a bit of a overlap and synergy. And my goal has really been, how do we support young musicians? How do we support young artists? And give them the tools and the knowledge to survive and to explore in a sustainable way a music ecosystem. Obviously, I really respect the work that the OLCC does, but it does create barriers to having young people really fully embrace and participate. Friends of Noise was really started because at the time I had a 13-year-old daughter who only way that she could go see live music was to see a live concert, say at the Moda Center, where we're paying hundreds of dollars to go see Kendrick Lamar or something like that. But that was a very different experience that I had growing up, where I was going to see music at spaces like Satyricon, EJ's, Belmont, and while those spaces were not all ages, they were really about community. And we saw a lot of young people come together, younger people come together, and really not only see musicians on stage, but see themselves on those stages. So that's what we hope to do here at the Offbeat, is create a space where young people not only see live music, but can imagine themselves on stage participating. Like you said, education is a huge part of what we do. So whether it is having our Sound Squad Supreme sound engineers, or doing workshops like, stage fright versus stage presence, how to make your own merch, but really make sure that young people have the keys to the kingdom. So I was really honored and thrilled when Missy reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to host our first Mondays at your new spot. And she challenged me, hey, can you find us a variety of youth musicians and people who could speak to their experience and talk about how welcoming, or maybe not welcoming, the Portland music ecosystem has been. Definitely thrilled to introduce Mathilda Schmidt.
Hello. Oh, hello. Is this thing on?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Hi.
Angel Marie.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Kelly Jeffers.
Hello. Is it working? Maybe.
Yeah. And her son, Gus.
What's up?
I've been very fortunate to have interacted with everybody on the stage in some capacity. In my capacity as Executive Director of Friends of Noise. I've booked them for shows. I've responded to emails. I've paid them. I've offered advice. I've been a source of a resource for information. And I thought that this was a great assemblage of young people who could really talk about their lived experience and share some tips and hopefully influence those in the room and those who are watching to what can they do to help make Portland more welcoming, more inviting, and more sustainable for young people that are under the age of 21. So I'm going to allow each of them to give a little bio about themselves, talk about their journey so far, and then we'll get into some questions and answers and hopefully open up to the audience as well. So Mathilda, can you share how we first met and talk a little bit about your musical career?
Yeah, so I met Andre through Friends of Noise. We did a show, oh gosh, what was that first show? I met him in I think my junior year when I was still with my old band, the Red Strings. And we just did a lot of shows together through junior into senior year of high school. And I've been singing for around 14 years in my life. But most recently I've been picking up as a solo songwriter, now trying to do a more main focus into jazz. I've always loved I was talking about this with some of you down there actually. Just the way that you can communicate in jazz. I mean, it's its own language, but just being able to communicate through not actually words and storytelling through just the raw emotion of the singing or the playing or whatever you're doing up there. But yeah, I love performing. I've been performing around Portland for 2 years now. I signed my first record deal last year, which was really awesome, through actually another Friends of Noise musician, Shannon Winoco. She's also part of Sucker Lake Records. And it's been really interesting trying to navigate as a musician who is under 21, just trying to find show venues that will allow me to enter their venue and just, be able to both watch and perform at those places. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Mathilda. Angel Marie, how long has it been? How long have I known you now, and where did we first meet?
Yeah, I think we met right at the end of my sophomore year, so that would have been mid-2024.
Might that have been one of the At Your Heard open mics, perhaps?
It might have been there. Yeah, it was at a Your Heard open mic, and then we did a gig over by Gateway Green. Mm-hmm. That was my very first
that's right, I remember that.
Friends of Noise gig, yeah.
So why don't you share a little bit about your journey, what your hopes, aspirations are, and how you've been navigating performing yourself?
Yeah, so music has always been a big passion of mine. I've been, writing songs since I was, 3. And, I kind of came back to it more seriously when I was around 8th grade. It was really an outlet for me because I was going through kind of a hard time. And it really helped me through that period of my life. And then once I got into high school, I got more serious about it. And I released my first EP last year. Just through recording at my school. They have a great audio engineering program, so I've learned a lot about that. And I was able to record and engineer my own EP, and I'm currently working on my first full-length album, which is going to be out next month. So, yeah, and I love performing around Portland. It's really just something that I love to do, and I really hope that I get to be able to do it for a long time. Yeah, and I mainly do kind of indie rock, indie folk music. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Brannick Howard at Grant High School. They've got a great music program there that is truly multi-year. I remember interacting with a young man named Avery Haynes back in, it must have been 2016, 2017, where he was in a band called the Castaway Kids that grew up in the Brannick Howard Grant High School ecosystem. So it's great to see that more and more musicians are still benefiting from his knowledge, his expertise, and really the community that he's built. I know that they produce a lot of sound engineers, a lot of people, it's an amazing program they have there. So
it's
I
a
want to
great
give a big
program.
shout out to them.
I was very lucky to be able to have access to that.
Great. And were you aware that Grant High School had such a music program there, or did you discover it once you arrived there?
I had no clue. All of a sudden I went there and I noticed the audio engineering program, and I was like, that's awesome. I think that's really kind of what encouraged me to put more of my music out there because I had an easier way to do so. So yeah, it was great.
Next, we have Kelly Jeffers. Kelly, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your journey as a mom of an underage musician?
It's been a lot. It's been very, very fun. I have 3 kids, all of which are entrepreneurs. Found out that these 2 actually go to school together, both at Grant. My oldest, they'll be graduating together in a couple weeks, which is pretty wild. How I found myself in this position is I kind of fell into it, and then I had to grow into it very, very quickly. I have surrounded myself with very incredible mentors, Andre being one, of people that I trust, people that I can call on at any kind of given moment with all of different pieces that are coming at me in this industry. Gus started at 11. He'll be 16 in June. He has done a tremendous amount in 4 years, as have I. I've read every book you can think of. I have listened to every podcast. I listen to podcasts daily because it is an ever-changing business. And just in what has happened in the 4 years he's been doing this, it's flipped on its head I don't know how many times, right? I mean, you all have seen this. And many of the people that are helping me have been in it for 30 plus years. And so they're kind of riding this wave too of what is happening, and we're figuring it out together. Gus performed a lot between like 11, 12, 13. Then 14, the voice change hits. And that's an interesting, I'll let him talk a little bit about that, but you come to an abrupt halt of everything you ever dreamed of, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, this isn't happening anymore. And so it was helping him and himself kind of navigate through how do I not sing for a while and kind of shift into production and songwriting and really understanding the business. I think he took a step back with me at that point. So I've had him kind of ride shotgun with me, or we may flip seats every once in a while about who's driving, depending on the day or the moment, but really of growing this together because you have to understand the business as well as the music, as well as the marketing, as well as the snakes that are out there, as well as the people that want to help you. And it's a full-time job in addition to the other full-time jobs that I hold as well. But I see myself as a guide with all 3 of my kids. It's their businesses. I'm just there to help kind of keep them on the road. It's a little about me.
I want to acknowledge that within the Friends of Noise ecosystem, most of the young people we interact with are extremely independent. I mean, Mathilda is on one spectrum where they're in their own band, they're making their own music, they show up to shows on their own, and like I said, I might have met Mathilda's parents once. I think Angel Marie is kind of in the middle. I've met their parents, and they've been happy to introduce themselves to me, and there's always a smile, but I don't see them interacting and guiding Angel's career as much. And I think you're on the far side of the spectrum where you really do see, hey, how am I supporting my child in a way that is going to get them to where they want to go?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, Gus, I'll let him tell you his dream when he is asked, but we're between LA and Nashville, New York, here. So we're kind of all over the place with a tremendous amount of people that are kind of pouring into Gus. And so it's filtering an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13, 14 in an adult world. He lives in an adult world more than he lives in a kid's world. So it's having to wear that mom hat as much as the manager hat. It's an interesting balance. Yeah.
So Gus, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the folks a little about yourself and what you're up to.
Hey guys, so I'm Gus. I'm a producer, songwriter, artist, and I've been doing it since I was 11. I kind of just started with covers, and I was asked by someone at my middle school to go sing a song. I was always singing "I Want You Back" by the Jackson 5. Like, I love that band, and I still do. And I was posting videos for a while, and then after I did the recital thing, someone took a video and it got like 1 million views over a couple days. And so it kind of like threw me into it like more than I already was. And I kept posting covers and kept doing videos, and I kind of was just trying to surround myself with people that I trust around me, like as my mom helping me with that. And the way I got connected with you, I think, was through Rain. Because I don't exactly remember how. I think I met Rain through social media as well. And she introduced me to you, and then I went down to my first, I think it was the Icebreaker. It was one of the Your Heard events. And that was like my first event with you guys, and you had me do some other shows, and that's kind of how I started and how I got connected with you.
So, Gus, I think that's a great introduction, and thank you so much. I'm curious. Most of the young people that I interact with, they are thrilled and happy to be able to perform in front of live audiences and to kind of get their energy and to be seen and be seen. But you're one of the first ones that I've interacted with that really does have a vision, I think based upon what you've learned from watching the people before you. I mean, I think obviously mentioning Michael Jackson is a good example where he was on a track with his brothers and sisters to something that most people just only aspire to. I'm curious, as a young person who is juggling school, siblings, life, puberty, all that, what's been something that has really helped you maintain that focus?
It changes a lot because I'm always, it's very all music driven, and like it's very easy, and I still do this, like getting caught up in the next thing and the next thing, and it never, like, it's easy for things to never feel like enough. And like I've still, like, daily, like that's still a thing that I struggle with, but I think I'm still figuring out what keeps me centered because I'm still bouncing around to different things. So I don't know if I have an answer to that yet. I'm still figuring that out.
That's a good answer. I can think of a lot of people who will give you an answer, so I appreciate that's a really good answer. Really good answer. Angel, as someone who is in a pretty vibrant and even fervent music ecosystem at Grant High School, how has it been for you to not only have kind of like your inner monologue or your inner dialogue, but how's it been being a part of such a energetic music ecosystem, especially with all the open mics you go to? I mean, right now there's like 3 or 4 in town that are great. Artichoke Music, You Heard, the open mic we have here. How's that journey been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been like kind of a exponential journey, I guess you could say, because you learn about one thing and then you're at that event and you talk to other people and they tell you about, you know, other things and ways to get involved. I definitely think that a lot of the things that I have found myself in were due to me learning about that and then just kind of putting myself out there into that space. And that's, I think, the leap that a lot of young artists don't necessarily always take, is putting themselves out there. Like, the whole reason that I'm here and I reached out to you guys is, you know, because I heard about it and I was like, that sounds really cool. And, like, you know, I signed up for it or whatever. And I think that, yeah, like, it's just, it's very much about trusting the process and putting yourself out there. And I think that being surrounded with other people who also like are passionate about music and will talk to you about it and support you is really great.
Mathilda, I first met you through your band Red Strings, and it was amazing to see the true bond and friendship you had with the other members. Obviously, I could think of B as an obvious one. Can you share with me how you found yourself in that collaborative space? I mean, for someone who's been performing, making music for such a long time, what was kind of the leap to start to share that creative process in such an intimate way with other people?
Well, I think for me, music has always been more fun when it's collaborative. And I mean, I met all of my bandmates through Lincoln High School. A lot of them did the jazz program, and I knew them through B. And they just came up to me one day and they were like, hey, want to be in a band? And at the time, I mean, I grew up, for music, I was like very heavy in musical theater my entire life, because my mom studied theater, and she was like, this looks like something you'd enjoy. So I was doing that and choir. So I've always been in a very collaborative space in music. I really, honestly, I don't love like performing alone. It gets the job done, but for me, performing with other people, the energy that's on stage, the energy that you then get from the audience when there is more than just one person on stage is like nothing else. So I also love hearing other musicians' opinions. There are things that I cannot even fathom of knowing or think of without the perspective of Riley. He was the jazz pianist in the Red Strings, and I both work with him and live with him now, and we're working on new arrangements for this upcoming album I've got going on, and there are things that he has and knows that I'm like, I didn't even think of that, but that works great. It's really interesting to see how other people's brains work when you invite them in a musical space and they hear something and they're like, this would be really interesting there, and obviously it doesn't work all of the time, but when it does, it's like, wow, I'm glad you're here.
Kelly, I think it's fair to say, as a parent, we're always watching our kids to kind of see what they're interested in. How can I support? How can I uplift? And I've discovered over the last, going on 10 years, that music, especially in the Portland metro region, has a unique place. There are several schools that have great music programs. I can think of Roosevelt, think of Grant. But then there are some great musical institutions that are geared toward kids. I'm thinking about the Portland Youth Philharmonic. How did you discern that this was a path that he was choosing, and how did you start to help navigate to find the resources in Portland to help support that?
I didn't even know the kid could sing. So that's really how it started. As the story goes, I was in my kitchen with a girlfriend of mine, and Gus and one of his best friends were in the living room singing "I Want You Back" by the Jackson 5, and I thought it was the recording. That is how it went. And from my side of the story. You can ask Iris. But I didn't, and I peeked around and it was him. I didn't really start in the Portland market. I was pretty bashful about it, honestly, in the beginning, because there can be a lot of judgment that comes with pursuing this career. It's not the typical, you're going to go play soccer. My son plays soccer. My daughter plays soccer. They both do. And so I wasn't very talkative. And there was a friend of mine at work that heard him sing on social media and called me and said, you got something with this kid. So I honestly needed that outside validation to really take the next step. One of his best friends, who's still a mentor to me today, I talk to him every week. He was part of the Sony. He's been at every record label, came up with kind of all the people that I loved, growing up, all the bands and such. And so he has been kind of a guiding light for me, kind of from the outside, from the business side. And then as Gus started getting more and more into it, we got a call from Bart with Hit Machine. And Gus started, that summer he was 13, he started playing Baby at all of their shows, which was really fun. And so it kind of just started naturally progressing. I met Bart, I met Doc there, we met Jonathan there. Jonathan then helped us get introduced to somebody else, who introduced to somebody else, who introduced us to Rain. I think it was Jonathan that actually introduced us to, was it not? Oh, it was Alonzo. I forgot about Alonzo. He's actually the very first in Portland.
Don't forget about Alonzo.
Alonzo, I am sorry. He was introduced with a good friend of ours, their neighbor Nafasaria, very much in the music scene. She heard about Gus. She introduced us to Alonzo. Alonzo then continued to kind of sending us out, in addition to the whole Hit Machine thing that was happening at the same time. And I just, he was 12, 13 years old, so I was just with him the entire time. The first time he sang with Alonzo, he was 11. He was right before he started, or right when he was starting 6th grade. So it just was a necessary thing for me to be there.
Gus, when names like Rain Ezra and Alonzo Chadwick get name dropped in a venue like this, can you share with us, from your perspective, what was it like to have that level of, dare I say, almost sustained mentorship in a way that was non-extractive? There are a lot of industries, music notwithstanding, but also you mentioned sports, where people are looking for the next thing that they can extract from. And I think obviously the younger you are, the more susceptible, or what they think are more susceptible you'll be to that. How did it feel for you, and how have you think you've evolved having folks that are doing that, including my friends of Noise, in a purely we want to be here for you, like Rain, like Alonzo?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a cool thing. I was really lucky to have that kind of support from people that had my best interest at heart early on, because like Rain like mentored me when I first started producing. Like I was over there and she was teaching me how to use Logic, and I don't think she had used Logic before, but she was learning it with me.
Rain is really into Ableton, so I think there might have been like a learn as you go kind of experience.
Yeah, and same thing with Alonzo, like bringing me along to different shows. The first like bigger show I did was the Waterfront with him, and I just like got up there and sang, and he was like, "Gus, you ready?" And like shoved me out there. So, but they're definitely like there's a lot of snakes, and it's very hard trying to pick and choose who does have my best interest, because I kind of like the way I get a lot of my opportunities is I just DM everybody and tag everybody, and I get like most people don't respond, a lot of people blow me off, and then some people are like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, and a lot of people are snakes and don't have your best interests, and then there's some people that kind of help guide you. So I think it's just, I feel like you get better at determining who has your best interest at heart.
I want to come back to you, Mathilda. You are the lone high school graduate in this group, and you're actually starting to transition to how am I going to make my way in the world where this is a big part of how I'm surviving, whether it's earning money, finding fulfillment. Can you talk a little bit about that transition from being a part of a healthy, thriving youth ecosystem where you're playing shows, 2-3 times in a month, you got to play Pickathon on the youth stage. How's that transition been for you now that you're out of that cocoon and you're starting to spread your wings and to navigate things in a different way?
It's been so difficult. I think when you are in an environment where people are there to have you play, people are there to like watch you practice, people are there to like practice with you, for classes or, youth-specific groups, I think it's really easy to kind of blossom in those environments, and I that was a lot of like how I really got my go. And now it's like, well, I gotta cover rent. I gotta pay my insurance. I gotta do all the things that all the other adults in the world have to do. But I think there is part of me that is both dependent on my determination, that feeds me to be like, no, I literally can't do anything else except for this. Like there's no bone in my body that's like, nah, I'll just be a barista for the rest of my life. I will say it is a lot harder as someone who, my parents support me in my music career. They want me to do that, but they're much more like hands off. And so I think having to navigate that in a sense of like, okay, before I joined Sucker Lake Records, it was a lot more, but it's like, then I was like, okay, I'm my own manager, I'm my own marketing person, I'm booking all of my own gigs, I'm doing all of these things kind of by myself. And I mean, with that, you learn every part of the industry, the things that are correct to do, the things that are wrong to do, people who, are looking out for you in your best interest, and those who aren't. And I think when you have a group, like a youth group like Friends of Noise, that is like pushing like, hey, like this is like what is good, I think if I didn't grow up with that, I would be a lot more like naive to what the music industry actually is, in the sense of, it is a business. But it's going as good as it can be, I got no complaints about it.
Great. Angel, you are about to graduate from high school, and you said that you're again heading up to the University of Puget Sound. Curious, how much has your music career influenced your, next like 3-4 year vision? Because I'll confess, when I was a junior in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I'm curious, how has music really started to really kind of fill you out from the inside out?
Yeah, it was a really kind of difficult decision to make, like do I want to go to school? Is that worth it for, you know, because I want to pursue music. Also, like, how feasible is that going to be, you know, in this, you know, because, like, it's hard to be an independent musician, especially right out of high school. And then it's like, do I want to do something else? Like, I don't. So it's, yeah, and then I found this program at Puget Sound that seemed just, like, really good for me. It's, there's a songwriting major, which is not common at all for, like, most four-year universities. And so I think it will be a great opportunity to learn more and kind of continue creating in more of a like a set path, so that I don't have to kind of just figure out what I'm doing from scratch. I have sort of a, you know, a place I can go to meet more people and, you know, figure out how I want to go about doing things. Because I think, I mean, one of the hardest things about being a teenage musician, kind of like Mathilda was saying, is like you do everything for yourself. Like currently I do everything. Like, you know, I produce my own music, I write my own music, I record it myself, I book all of my shows, I manage all of that. And it's a lot to do, and I think that going into a path where I still have a good support system and outreach will definitely be good for me.
It's, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of Marissa Anderson. Anyone? Marissa Anderson's a local, world-famous musician, lives in Cully. And I asked her several years ago, as I was starting Friends of Noise, you know, how do you know when it's time to get management? How do you know when it's time to build a team? And she literally said to me, after you've learned how to do everything, and it's not, you can earn more and have more growth in focusing on music. And when you reach that point is when you hire the publicist. Because now, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to do that because I don't earn as much money doing that as I'm doing with making my music. So that comes to the next question for you. It's a good segue. What's the team that you're building around Gus? I mean, it's, you know, it's one thing to have an incredible engine that is driving things, but that engine needs the oil. It needs the pit crew. And you can hear already when you're taking on so much on yourselves, Mom, you gotta look after yourself too. I mean, you can burn out just as easily as Gus can burn out. So what's the team you're building?
Yeah, it's a great question. It continues to evolve as he gets more and more efficient at what he does and better at what he does. You know, when he first started, he didn't know how to write a song. He didn't know how to produce. Now he can do it. He calls himself a Swiss Army knife. He's trying to be a Swiss Army knife.
He's a producer. I heard that.
Yeah, so he's a producer, a songwriter, singer. So the roles are shifting where he would have a producer that would do that with him or for him. Now he's truly collaborating with them. From my side, I've had mentors like Gio, the one I mentioned kind of in the beginning, who and I've come across other ones that have continued to kind of support me in the area that I needed at that time. As an example, we just met with a potential amazing team that's going to come in and support us today on social media. Gus and I have kind of figured out how to do it, and we've had a lot of teachers, but now they really know how to do it. And so now it's time to take his social media, because this game, whether we like it or not, it is a game, and social media and marketing is almost more important than the talent in a lot of ways. And it's not what we like it to be, but if the direction that Gus wants to go, it's important. And so I have to bring in those experts. I have attorneys now. I have kind of a group of producers that we trust who then vet the other producers. I'm still managing, but we have a couple different managers that we're speaking to that will then take what I play at and take it to the next level, all of which that can do A&R, that can bring in the writers, the producers, that can take him up to another level, which is the direction that he really wants to go.
One thing I definitely heard in there was, what I heard in the subtext was, no matter how big the team gets, how do we stay grounded? You know, and how do we stay grounded? And that's one thing I like to think about Friends of Noise with all the young people we've worked with, is we've always had a level of transparency and a level of we're not gatekeeping information. How are we sharing that information so that young people can make reasonable decisions based upon a level of honesty and trust? So I really appreciate that the team that you're building is grounded in that.
Can I add one last comment?
Of course.
One of the things I think Gus and I have done really well is that we're interviewing people as much as they're interviewing us, kind of as we're going along and growing the team. And the ones that want to come along for the ride, knowing that I have 2 other kids, both my husband and I work. We're not a record label. We jokingly call ourselves a record label. This is an expensive business, you know. And one of the people we were talking with today, she said, Kelly, right or wrong, now Gus is in pop and R&B. She goes, that's probably one of the most expensive lanes to run in. And she said, what I see time and time again is it's not necessarily the talent that breaks through, it's the people that have the money. And it's hard. So where I'm going with this is that we've continued to surround ourselves with people that believe in him and aren't necessarily going to charge me for that, but know in the long term that I'm going to have to build a team and he's going to have to build a team that's going to take him to the level that he wants to go. And so the payment at some point will come. And so I would encourage people to do that as they're growing up, is surround themselves with people that believe in them.
So Gus, here's a question for you. Obviously, Mathilda's already performing in a variety of local venues, obviously venues that are open to having underage performers in them, because we mentioned the OCC. You started off much younger and were kind of already catapulted, obviously, like you said, the waterfront, knowing Alonzo. When I hear you and your mom talk about, hey, we're already branching out into other markets, what is your glide path, or what do you see as your path to being able to perform in a way that is furthering your journey? I mean, that's one thing I'm really thrilled about seeing so many young artists, is because they're taking what they're doing out of the basement, out of the bedroom, and getting in front of people in real ways. I mean, I've seen you perform on stage, I've seen you perform on big stages and small stages. How's that working for you, and how do you see yourself continue to age and grow in a way that you're finding and supporting your craft and your heart?
I feel like it's kind of just doing it a lot and like messing up a lot and making a lot of mistakes and playing shows with one people and playing shows with like a lot of people playing. Like, I feel like it's just like showing up. I feel like that's the most important thing. I feel like, because you never know what's gonna happen. Like if you show up to the event or if you show up to whatever it is. And I think that's the way, just like repetition. And one thing I'll add on to the social media comment she said is like the team, like interviewing like a social media team didn't like come out of the blue. It came from like 800, 900 reels and YouTube shorts, and like it came from like relentless throwing paint at the wall. And so it's just like social media is a whole nother hard thing that I feel like you just have to try, and because I feel like a lot of people they don't really know what they're doing as much as people say they are. I think you have an idea, but you just do stuff until it works, and then you repeat it over and over again.
I'm going to name drop a name that, have you all heard of Win?
Yeah.
Right? I think Win is a great example of someone who has transitioned from being a teenager who is making music for themselves and who's been embraced by a community. I want to give a big shout out to OG1 and Star Child, who really nurtured and supported. And it's been amazing to see their growth and explosion over the last year, where they're playing across the globe. And they have developed that brand, and they have developed this. So I think that's a great example of an artist to really keep an eye on, to kind of track. And in this day and age, social media, you get to see every step. Now, granted, you don't see what's happening behind the door, behind the scenes, but you know what it takes to get behind the scenes. So you have an idea, oh, wow, they're doing this, they're doing that. And it's textbook. It's an amazing opportunity to watch someone who, has been making music since they were a teenager, and now they're really stepping onto a world stage. So it's definitely doable, even from Portland, Oregon. So I really want to make sure that you're aware of that. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I did want to say if there's any questions, we're more than happy to do a quick Q&A.
Andre, well done, thank you, and thank you all for taking the time to be here. I'd be really curious. I want to hear all your views music. Andre, can you arrange for us to get links?
Oh, of course, I'd be happy to.
I'd love to hear your music.
In fact, I was lamenting that I did not encourage everyone to bring something along with them. We could have started the evening with a little bit of a bit of music, but that's easy. That's easy, and I'd be happy to get them so that your audience and then with the video we can have links there. Of course, to be happy to. Missy.
I'm just curious, have any of you three done the American Idol or any of that stuff? Because, like, I just look up at you and you're all superstars. I just wonder if that's ever been an option and if that's even an accessible thing for young people.
I think my mom messages me weekly to do The Voice. She's like, they love that show. They're like, we can totally see you up there. And I've brought it up to my label a few times, and they still have not told me why I shouldn't do it. I think it's something that would be a good, like, hey, like, I'm here, reach out to me. I think for me, I've definitely wanted to do it, and I just have to see what they say about it, because I think they definitely got some opinions on it that I could not know.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really considered it. I just think, I've been in high school, so I have a lot going on. Regular life, music stuff. Yeah, I do think it's definitely a good way to get your music out there, but I'm not sure if it's the route that I would necessarily want to take. I don't know if it's very fitting for my genre or what I really want out of music, but
I would like to give both these two a shout out though, because last year at my support, they both entered into the first annual Buskathon here in Portland, and they were both finalists. So I was thrilled to see they get out there and put themselves out there. Granted, Old Town was a little sketchy. So I didn't mean to be a trigger there, but I was really amazed to see how amongst a bit of a competitive atmosphere with a lot of people from across the city, you two really shone. And I was really, really proud to see you on the final stage at Directors Park. So congratulations, and keep up the good work, seriously. So Gus, has that been on your radar?
I think a few years ago I tried it, but I remember it was either too young or I just didn't hear back. It was one of the reasons, but something also adding on to why your label doesn't want you to. I've heard, because I know a couple people that have done those shows, and I guess the only thing that I've heard from them is it's easy to get labeled as that show, and you kind of get that covers you, I guess. So that's I've heard that before, but I think it's great for exposure and great for putting yourself out there. But I guess it's just how you do it and how they show you off, I guess, on the show.
There's also just, if you get that opportunity, the contracts are pretty steep. So having an attorney look at those, they pull you right in. It is also a reality show, so there's a lot of pre-planned and people that they handpick them.
Selective editing.
Oh, they are pre-selected, and then they're pre-selected all the way through. So it's some of it's real, but most of it's not.
So this question for musicians. Since I don't know your music, can you give me a goal that feels achievable for each of you in the next year and a half? What are you shooting for?
Oh, okay. I think for me, I would like to be performing at least 4 shows a week, having solid residencies. I already have one going right now at the Javelina Cocktail Bar, which has been super fun. But I think just getting my music in front of people, and having them listen and hear, what I have to say. I don't know. I think it's both really easy to say that I want to do 4 shows a week, but also can be not daunting, but people don't respond to emails. People don't, will leave you on red. It happens all the time, And so I think, also like a goal for myself is keeping that consistency of like, hey, like, I did that show for you, but can I come back though, please? I think that's going to be a big goal for this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because I always try to kind of set goals for myself incrementally, and like the one goal for my senior year was make an album, and like I'm very close to that. But I guess going forward, there's a lot more to think about, and I definitely do want to start doing a lot more live shows and getting my music out there. And just, I don't know, I just want to increase my exposure and be more consistent about putting myself out there, because I think this year I've had a lot going on and I've sort of stepped back from posting stuff and promoting stuff, which is something that is, I don't love it, but it's really important if you want an audience. And to kind of focus on that more would be good to do.
I think I just want to continue to better myself, I guess, as a person and as an artist. I think it's just like, just continuing to grow. I don't know if I have an exact, I want to be at this spot and playing this show in this engagement, whatever. Like, I just think I just want to just grow.
So I have a follow-up question, is that a couple of days ago, someone told me that they felt that our brand was too indecipherable, in that a lot of our graphic and images are aimed towards families and young people, because we try to get buy-in from parents and say, yeah, I'm going to let my kid go there. So I'm curious for you all, and maybe we'll start with Gus this time. Have you figured out your audience, and how are you navigating being a young person that is being talked to and talked about by primarily adults?
Yeah, I think it's hard because it's like such like an adult world a lot of the time, so you kind of have to always be on, in a sense, and like engaging and nice and like all this, not nice, but like like you have to, like you're trying to like a lot of the people you come across, like you're trying to be very like come across as like whatever you're trying to come across as, and I think it changes with like audience, and I feel like I try my best to sculpt that, but I feel like I can't. I feel like some of it gets chosen for you as far as just who is attracted to your music and who likes it. But I guess like I'm still figuring out some of that stuff.
And Angel, how about you? I mean, I've always seen you as an artist who is seeing what's in your heart. Not that all artists don't do that, but I don't think you're as kind of like, means tested.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to pinpoint where my audience is, I would say, because it always kind of depends. I think when I'm performing, like, I just generally get a sense of like, oh, is the audience into, whatever I'm doing? Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, and it's not necessarily based on anything. It's just like, I don't know. It's a little bit hard because I started putting my music out there mostly online and on social media, and my audience there was really not what I wanted it to be. It was like my demographics were like 76% men, which was not what I expected at all. And it's just like, it's difficult to shape your audience because it just kind of happens. Because then once I started playing more locally, there was definitely more like young adults, but then also like people my parents' age that were really interested in it, which was cool. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, my audience has always been people who want to see themselves in me. I don't know if that's a egotistical thing to say, but I know for me personally, I didn't grow up with any like plus size women who were in the music career like really at all. You know, I mean, I grew up at the end of the 2000s, you know, heroin chic, even though that is making a comeback, which for me is even more important for me to, you know, keep pushing my music. You know, I think a lot of people want to see unapologetic big girls on stage, you know, and that is a lot of what my audience is people who, you know, are confident and want to see that more represented in media. Because I think, you know, right now, especially with like the rise of GLP-1s and Ozempic, there's a real narrative being pushed that being bigger is bad. But, you know, I think like my audience is like, no, like that isn't necessarily a bad thing. And, you know, they want to see that be performed.
Thank you. I saw a question back here before. There you go.
Question/comment. You know, I took note on, you know, you're mentioning the robust public high school band programs and that kind of as a feeder into, you know, the music industry at large. How aware and engaged, you know, Friends of Noise, how much are your high schools like really formally interfacing? I come from Anchorage, Alaska, and there's you know, they're having to cut band programs at some of the public schools right now. It's just bad news, and we're just so aware that that's a feeder, you know, into the broader music community. Just, you know.
So that's one of the reasons why I asked Angie Marie if she was aware. So Grant High School has an amazing music teacher, and I want to acknowledge that. I don't think that Grant High School would be as much of a music school if it wasn't for that teacher. A couple of years ago, I participated in a forum where we could track different school tracks, like elementary school, middle school, high school tracks, and you could see what schools, like Da Vinci is a local middle school that has a lot of music in it, but the school before Da Vinci doesn't. So it's like so it's interesting where it really comes down to the personnel and the staffing and the resources that each individual school can devote to that. And that is just, you know, that is like rolling the dice. Does this particular teacher who moved here from Boise, who has an amazing history of music, decide to move to Portland and decide to try and get a job at this particular high school? And right now, I'm not aware of seeing Portland Public or David Douglas or Beaverton or Sunset or Centennial point out, hey, here's what resources do we have when it comes to music, because I think schools are so overwhelmed and overburdened with, hey, we've got to just get these kids in and out of here and train them to become, you know, the next whomever. So that's why I asked, you know, you were not aware of the music program there, and do you see now that you're in it how the school is trying to augment or get new young people involved in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that question was really interesting because the elementary and middle school that I went to had zero band program, pretty much no music stuff at all. And going from that to Grant was really interesting for me because I had zero prior, like, sort of real musical experience that a lot of people did have. But then going into that was really cool, and like the whole reason that Grant does have an audio engineering program is because of Brannick Howard. Like, he came in and he created that whole program from scratch. Yeah, there was nothing like that before. But I do think that schools, since the pandemic in PPS specifically, have kind of been regressing a little bit in terms of music programs. And yeah, I mean, kind of like you were saying, like, I think that there's less of a focus on that recently. But at Grant, there's some really great opportunities, and I've talked to other musicians who go to other schools, and I feel really lucky and really grateful. And like, that's not something I take for granted at all, especially coming from a school where we had zero music program at all.
And not to tout Friends of Noise's horn, but within the last year, we launched a citywide Battle of the Bands so that we could engage with local high schools to help them create a catalyst for there to become bands within those schools that have something to aspire to. Like I said, back in the day, it must have been like 16 or 17, there was a great band coming out of Grant called Castaway Kids. And these young people that have been playing with each other for a clear 4 years, and when they graduate, half of them are still making music as young adults. So, you know, with our Battle of the Bands, we've engaged with Grant High School, Roosevelt High School, even St. Mary's Academy downtown to say, how do we start to create the catalyst, and how do we have the water and the soil so that young people see themselves in that context with each other? So that's curious. Did you ever have formal education when it came to music?
I had a lot of it in middle school because we had a band teacher there. It was like completely, like none of the instruments that I play now I used, but I developed a lot of skills and like that I still use, and like mentality towards it that I still use. Like I was in percussion when I did band for a couple years, but yeah, I think Tabor had a cool band program. I haven't done much in Grant because I try and keep it separate because I do so much outside of school. I like to keep school like this is friends and this is school. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I think about it.
So that means you haven't done a Pandemonium yet then?
No.
So Pandemonium, for those who don't know, is actually a grant-based open mic that a young student started back, it must have been 2021 maybe, and we had started an open mic called You Heard, which started actually at the Soul Restoration Center, and we had done it for about maybe 6 months, and this young woman just emailed or called and said, hey, I want to start an open mic at my school, and it's still going. I'm assuming Pandemonium is still going, so it's interesting. I know they'd love to have you, but I really do appreciate the separation. I really do appreciate that. So how about you? What was your musical journey with education?
Oh gosh, okay. So I really did not do a lot of stuff with Lincoln up until really my senior year. All of my musical education had come from choir up until I was up until I was in high school.
So it was church choir?
It wasn't, we played in a church. I was with the Portland Symphonic Girl Choir. So I did that since I was like 5. And then I stopped doing it around my junior year. But I had not taken any music classes at Lincoln besides the Cardinal Choir they have there. The thing about Lincoln is they have a jazz program, they have a band program, but at the time I was so invested in musical theater that, I remember my senior year, I was splitting one of my class periods to be in musical theater and to be in the jazz program because it was something that I really wanted to do. So honestly, up until my senior year, I really didn't have much interactive, class-based musical education.
So what was your theater school into Lincoln?
My theater school was the Odyssey program, which was a history-based middle school. So we really had no music program there. It was, I think, we did some musicals based on history, and that was about it.
You have dysentery.
You have dysentery. It was great. It was a good time. It was real fun.
Great. Any more? We can keep this conversation going. No, we're good. I've got a couple of questions, and I want to make sure we give the floor time. So, Gus, if you don't mind me asking, how are you navigating the isolation of being you, especially now that I hear you say, hey, I really want to keep life separate from school? I know that Ames Marie and Mathilda really found a lot of community in school. How are you navigating that isolation and having to have yourself in those two different worlds?
It's weird because it's a lot of solo time because I convinced my school to let me leave at 12 because I do so much outside of school and I do all the content stuff. So it's a lot of traveling with my mom and by myself and not around a lot of people my age, and a lot in my room, making stuff and writing songs, which is great, but it can be hard because it's like you said, it's a lot of isolation. So I've been doing my best to try and separate where I can, and for school, trying to just keep it friends and school and not have the music intertwined with that. But yeah, I think that's how I'm handling it. I'm still trying to figure that out because it's very hard to do friends and music because when you care about music so much, because it's kind of like a sport. So I put a lot of my time there. So it's just trying to make time for everything else.
Are you starting at this point in your career to look at like certain festivals? I mean, obviously you've got, big shows like, Tree Fort or heck, South by Southwest, or, there's a lot of amazing musical opportunities on the West Coast. And how are you connecting with those? Maybe this is a question for your mom. How are you connecting with those talent buyers and those bookers to really get him out there on a larger stage where there's bigger media and there's bigger audiences?
We're just starting, because he just came out of his voice change this past, 6 months or something, really, something like that. And it's just, we're big manifestors, kind of how the world and universe works. We have a couple of folks that have come into our world. That is what they do, some of the biggest shows in the world. And so we're going to be working with them and potentially having Gus open up for some of these acts, and such. So he's going to be getting quite a bit of training and such on how do you work a stage like that. He's done a lot of performing and such, but not at that. With Hit Machine, you probably had 6,000 people was the biggest, but these are potentially even bigger. So we're just beginning to have those conversations with people that have the connections to do it.
So I'm curious. So how is it recording your first album? I mean, yeah. Would you share? I mean, obviously, are you doing it at home? Are you getting some studio time? Are you doing all of the work yourself? Do you have anybody supporting you when it comes to mixing, mastering? What's going on?
Yeah, so most of it has been at school, during class time or after school. Because Grant has a recording studio that is really great to utilize, because I don't have a ton of recording stuff at home. I can do some kind of demos, but it doesn't sound very good. And also I have access to Pro Tools at school, which is really great. Recording my first album has been really interesting, because during the class that I have is pretty much just open studio time. It's the most advanced audio class there is. And there's maybe like 2 or 3 other people in my class with me who will, help me with my sessions sometimes, but sometimes they're working on their own things. So it's really just, we're all setting it up. We're all getting the sessions set up, the mics set up, engineering the session, and I help them engineer their sessions when they want to record. And so, yeah, and then I just I do kind of a bass mix, and then I try to get time. It's really hard to get times with my teacher to be able to sit down and work on my mixes and actually finish them. That's the main issue that I've been running into, is my album is almost done, but I need to just finalize a lot of the mixes, and it's hard to get time to do that since all of them are at school. But yeah, it's definitely been an interesting experience. It's a lot of work for sure, and I've had to spend a lot of time outside of school, working on it and recording other stuff. So.
Mathilda, how about you? Is it much overlap there?
Well, I recorded my first EP after I graduated, and that was how I met Kyle at Sucker Lake Records. I was like, hey, I really want to get this out there and just have something that people can listen to when they want to, hear me. And so for that, I was really heavy in the songwriting. I was in the studio twice a week for 8 hours a day, working on the arrangements of the pieces, saying I want this here, but I don't want that there. Also kind of formulating a cohesive sound between the just the album itself. I think for me, an album is that is the story, of my music, that for me is telling me my experience in life. And so for me, when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's important to, have at least some cohesive thing in every song that's okay, no, this belongs in this album. But I loved it. It was a great time, for me, all the work that, Angel Marie was talking about, putting out outside, and as well as Gus, it's it is like a sport. You know, you do have to say no to a lot of things, which I think, you know, out of everything has been the most difficult, you know, growing up as a musician, as someone who wants to pursue this as a career. You know, you do miss out on a lot of things that, you know, regular teens get to do, which, you know, is an exchange, but it's so worth it because you get to see you, in a sense. You know, you get to see you kind of blossom and grow, you know, as a musician, as your music does. And I think that is, you know, more worth it than any party I could go to, you know. So, yeah.
Well, that's it for me. Any closing statements? Kelly, any thoughts you'd like to share as maybe the other young people might get to see this, or maybe other young people's parents might get to see this on the YouTube?
I wouldn't take this lightly. It's hard. It's a lot of freaking work. I mean, it just is a lot of work. On my part, on his part, on our family's part, it's an investment of time you give up a ton. He's missed a lot. But I also say it's the best cheat code I ever found with my 3 kids. And then I get to be in business with all 3 of them. And what other 18-year-old wants to talk to his mom right now, you know, and I get to work with Gus every day. And there's a lot of ups and downs, you know, as well as you're trying to manage all of this. So having a support system around you that is outside of the relationship with your child is really important, you know, too.
Angel, how about you? Any closing statements?
I mean, I was just gonna say that I think that, I mean, music has always been a central part of my life, and I'm really glad that I've been able to do all the things that I can do, that I have done, and I want to keep doing a lot of stuff. It's just, I think for me, like, the hardest part about all of it is probably just getting the outreach and the promotion, you know, being kind of my own manager and promoter or whatever. It's been really sort of difficult to gain like a consistent audience and a consistent, you know, because I don't have a team of people or anything like that. But I don't think that, you know, that's what it's necessarily about for me. Like, obviously that drives it, and it's kind of an unfortunate part about being a musician is that, especially nowadays, is that you have to know how to, you know, post on social media and all those kinds of things, which is like my least favorite part about it, because I really just love writing and creating and performing the music. That's what I love about it. So then, you know, all of these hurdles are just other things that you have to sort of be aware of when you're going into music seriously. Yeah.
Thank you.
Know who you are and understand that will change. I can think of at least like 20 different versions of myself that I've been this past year, and every single one I'm like, okay, this is who I am right now. You know, with my last EP, that's who I thought I was. Now I look back on it, I'm like, I don't even know that person anymore. You know, I think that is the big thing, is understanding yourself, you know, better than anyone else, which sounds silly, and you would think that, you know, people would just be like, yeah, of course, but that's, in my experience at least, as a listener, you know, that is what I look for, is like someone who understands themselves and, you know, is, you know, unapologetic about it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. My closing statement, if I had one, was to say that when recently people asked me, you know, what do I get out of Friends of Noise? And I want to acknowledge that in many ways, I am in a direct dialogue with my 13-year-old self. And I think about, you know, what would I say to a 13-year-old who loves music and yet is seeing how there are algorithms and there are programs that are trying to feed me this and that and this and that. And I was a kid who grew up listening to Run DMC one day and Kiss the next. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. So I was exposed to a very broad variety that was, I think, because there wasn't an algorithm. So I really, really want to respect and say I admire that you are all full-throatedly embracing, like you said, who you are. and you're not allowing a machine or an algorithm or a Svengali or a super producer to define who you are. So I appreciate when you say, I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out, because no one has drilled into your brain, you're going to be this, and you're going to do this, that, until you get there. So I'm so honored to know all of you. I'm so honored to be able to offer whatever assistance I can. You know that the Friends of Noise and I we're here at your disposal. And, this is literally my life's work, and I'm thrilled that this is what I get to do. So thank you so much for joining us today. And for the adults out there, these folks are the future. These folks are going to be doing amazing things. And speaking of amazing things, before we go, Michael Howard has got some things to say, so I haven't forgotten about that. So Michael, why don't you come up? We're going to give Michael this microphone, just so I don't forget. Would you please pass that back to the gentleman in the blue hat?
I'm not going to be able to follow any of that. Thanks. Thanks for the quick moment. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, and this coming December, second weekend in December, I have some handbills here that I'll leave and hand out to you guys. Anchorage Music Week and Dark Days Music Fest, all ages alternative music festival in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Super cheap airfare, super cheap hotel deals. It's all built around this off-season tourism, very much inspired by a lot of the same work and mission as Friends of Noise and other groups like Vera Project in Seattle. You're all invited to come up to Anchorage second weekend in December. Come say hello afterwards. My name's Michael. Thanks, Andre.
Thanks, Michael. Missy, would you like to say anything about Music Portland, Music Oregon before we go?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for coming tonight. This programming is one of our favorite things that we do. And so once a month, usually on the first Monday, we gather somewhere in Portland and we have this type of wonderful dialogue with people who are involved in music. So if you're interested, one of the main things, I'm looking right in the camera, is joining our mailing list, which you can find a sign up at MusicOregon.org. And that will give you advance notice on wonderful programming that's coming up next month. But we thank you all for being a part of this. And let's give a big hand to Andre and the entire panel.
Right.